You're listening to Where You Live with Gene and Tony.
Welcome back to Where You Live with Gene and Tony. We are going to be starting a conversation here about what's going on at the state legislature. I think there are a lot of writing that's fast and a furious, Tony.
They're busy, and this is the time of year when they're very busy. But we're talking specifically about things that affect multifamily housing.
Yes,
right?
And it's not going to be just HOAs either, but also rentals as well.
That's right.
And before we go any further, I would like to just let everybody know, of course, that we are broadcasting live from the Concierge Landscape Studios, and we are also sponsored this hour by Extreme Exteriors. As a property manager or board of directors to an HOA, you're aware that there may be multiple buildings, multiple designs, multiple concerns, but the need for one consistent and integrated solution. Call the great folks at Extreme Exteriors, 763-441-1334, and tell them Gene and Tony sent you.
Also, write down our phone number so you can call us with your comments or questions.
Yes.
That's 651-289-4488, or if you're too shy to speak to our super nice producer, Bill, you can email Gene at gene@ncmgi.com, and we'll read your email on the air.
And we'd love to hear from you, because some of these things are, there may be some merit to. Others are just poorly written and are kind of a laugh.
And seem to come from people that know nothing about homeowners associations.
Oh, and that's the thing that is troubling. But when you stop and take a look at the process and what they are charged to do, here we've elected 120 some folks around the state to come up and know everything going on in the state. There's a lot. There's a lot to deal with. But
sure, I don't expect them to know everything about every issue that comes before them, but I am surprised that they don't do more research.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I don't expect them to know everything.
That's right.
But before they write legislation, I expect them to know about the subject before writing about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't they have staff? And don't they have people they can call on to come, hey, let's hear all sides of this issue? That's what shocks me, is that they aren't even required or don't even care to hear all sides of an issue before they start writing the legislation. Yeah,
and why not hold some informational meetings in the community? Maybe someone comes up this legislative session and says, we'd like to propose a bill for this, instead of being in a knee-jerk reaction and say, yep, let's do it because we got to do something. Wouldn't it be better to say, we'll wait on that, and then after the session's over, begin to hold meetings to see if it's really true or not?
There's probably legislators that do that, or they do that for certain issues that they know are going to be scrutinized, but an awful lot of this stuff for homeowners associations, they just seem to try and slip by, because that's a limited population, people who live in homeowners associations. You're the one, Gene, that always tells me, the legislature's job, they feel, is to help their constituents. So if one of their constituents calls and says, I'm mad at my homeowners association because of this, that, and the other thing, their reaction often is, okay, let's pass some new legislation about that.
Yes, and they're going to do that because that's what legislators do. They legislate. Right. They write laws. I guess there's a little bit of what's called the primacy effect.
Okay.
We get it all the time in property management. The first time someone comes to us with a story, before we've heard the other side, you have a different view of their credibility, don't you, when you're here when it's the first person telling the story?
Boy, you've taught me that so well, Gene. I make sure I am the first person you hear from if I've got a problem going on at one of my properties, because it does put more emphasis on my opinion and my viewpoint of the problem if I'm the first one you hear from.
It
correct?
does. That's the first thing that happens. It's called the primacy effect. It happens in human nature all the time.
Sure.
The first person that you hear from, now all of a sudden the other person may have another side of the story, and it may be valid, but they have to do a little bit more to prove that to you.
Sure.
And I think that is what's going on at the legislature. You guys be the judge. Call us. Let us know what you think about some of these laws. 651-289-4488. Well, let's begin with one, Tony.
All right.
And, again, I thought that some of this had already been dealt with, but again, the Senate has found it in their hearts to add a little bit more.
The Minnesota Senate thought this just needed a little more messing with.
And this is in terms of the prohibition of flag displays and
signs.
And signs, yes.
Well, it's not just homeowners associations; it's also on rental property.
Yes, and this is what it reads, folks. This is in Senate File number 926. You'll find this, and this is 1.8, 1.8 of Minnesota state statute. Here it says prohibited flags and talking about signs, and it says here any provision of any deed restriction, subdivision regulation, restrictive covenant, local ordinance, any contract, any rental agreement, any homeowner association document, any of these things that limits the right of an owner or tenant in the residential property to display a non-commercial sign or the flag of the United States or the flag of the state of Minnesota is void and unenforceable.
Wow. So the state's not only removing the ability for a homeowners association to make these decisions for itself. Are we going to allow flags of the United States and of the state of Minnesota? They've already actually removed that ability. We have to allow flags, or
Yes.
a homeowners association has to allow flags, although a homeowners association can determine and limit how, where, when, what size, that kind of thing, that it can be displayed. But this also affects rental property. This says that a tenant with a rental agreement cannot be prohibited from putting up a flag or a non-commercial sign.
Yeah, and a non-commercial sign. Commercial sign, folks, of course, would be Bill's Barber Shop or Joe's Pretty Good Plumbing.
Or for rent.
Or for rent. But a non-commercial sign is save the whales.
There you go. Free Belarus. I had a renter that had that sign in his window, and he was a native of Belarus.
Or my board sucks. It could be something like people can write something that is a non-commercial sign making a statement because they have this freedom of expression. Do you think that that's right, folks? We want to talk to you about it. We're going to need to take a break right now. When we come back, we want to find out what you have to say about this legislative piece that's wanting to be proposed right now. Are you for it, or do you think that there's some problems with it? We'll be back after these messages.